Welcome to the Work Intelligence Podcast. I'm your host, Todd Michaud. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Tarrah Palomino and Alexiss Abad, co-founders of the Papilio Collective, a forward-thinking consulting firm helping financial institutions, fintechs, and other enterprises navigate change, embrace innovation, and unlock growth. Welcome to both of you. I'd love for you guys to start with an introduction of yourself and then, tell us a little bit about the work, the important work that Papilio does around helping organizations set themselves up for the future of work. Tarrah, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, thanks so much, Todd. I appreciate the opportunity to kind of share our story and have a conversation this morning. So, I am Tarrah Palomino. I'm the founder and CEO of Papilio Collective.
I'm Alexiss Abad, principal consultant at Papilio.
Thanks, Alexis. So, Todd, I guess to get back to your question, like who's Papilio and why we did all of this is, really, I think Papilio was founded in a vision and a dream many years ago before we actually made it official back in 2024. But I think the thing that Alexis and myself and everyone on our team has in common is that we know that doing hard things, change work, transformation inside organizations is really not for the faint of heart. It's for folks who really can see a better path forward, a different path forward. And I think the two of us have been in that position in our careers as well as others on our team and really felt that we could offer something to the industry that both came from a place of deep empathy, having, been in the position ourselves many years, but also leading the journey to that transformation and really being, at the right side of our friends out in the financial institution community and fintech community. So that's really the why, Todd, and like how this all got started. And we're really passionate about making sure that people can thrive amidst a lot of really fast moving change.
As I've gotten to know both of you over the past, many, many months, I guess by now, I've been, I've really, first of all, enjoyed learning about the work that you do and find it to be, the right type of work for these organizations at the right time. It is about, bringing, state of the art tech. We have so much focus on AI innovation. And regardless of whether it's AI innovation or traditional enterprise, software, change adoption and dealing with the human side has just always been the issue. And what I've enjoyed learning about your team and your company is you really do put an emphasis on the human side of things. And that's usually where transformation or programs that require adoption, run into roadblocks is getting our amazing human workers to embrace the change. And so love to have you talk a little bit about the focus on humanity and the focus on change adoption a little bit more, because I think that really makes you unique at a time when organizations are really trying to figure out how to set up their organization for success.
The transformation opportunity that organizations have. I mean, it's not a new one, right? We've, as humans, transform over time throughout history.
Yeah.
Um, And I see the real problems, the underlying problems are really human ones, right? So every business problem is a human problem. And without tackling that first, you really can't accelerate innovation. I think humans do want to change, we're just bad at it. And
Sure.
so if we could
Sure.
really
Are you sure they
yeah,
want
I
to?
think I mean, I'm a change leader, and there are certain things that I don't wanna change, right? And so I have
Right.
to look
Right.
myself in the
Yeah.
mirror and face those things, but, it's a very human thing. Emotions are messy,
Yeah.
and if we can solve for the emotions, the human condition, we could accelerate, our desires, our path, ways forward to become better in every sense of the way, right?
Mhm.
From how you're performing as an organization, as an individual, you really have to deal with those human factors to really amplify and get to the results that you really want. So I didn't start here, certainly didn't start here. I was like, I have the right answer. Everyone just needs to follow, right? And I,
Mhm.
I encountered a lot of friction, a lot of resistance. Things ended up being slower. And so, I wasn't born this natural change leader, but I knew
Mhm.
it's exactly what I was missing to
Yeah.
be the type of leader and to get the results that I wanted. was really answering those human issues, those human questions, alongside having the right ideas, the right solutions, along with the vision
Yeah.
as well. So, I think it's just that combination, right? It's a key skill to have.
What we often find, Todd, just to kind of riff on what Alexis said, is, what we often find, and sometimes it's hard for our customers that are, really have their hands on the work every single day. There's so much more we have in common in regards to, the vision that and sort of the future state that we see. Oftentimes it's difficult to work through, the plate of work, if you will, that's right in front of us to get to that future state. And so oftentimes it's around alignment, and that's what Alexis and I are really also very passionate about, in addition to all of the piece parts that she mentioned, which is, human growth, individual growth is really important. Team growth as a leader is really important. But as a leader, and doesn't necessarily mean you have to call yourself a change leader. But if you are in a leadership role, if you look back on your career history, you probably have been changing things and supporting people through change your entire career. So often with large transformations, it's about pulling people together to help them see the commonality of the vision that they have for the organization.
Yes. You know, um, it's been so interesting over the last year or two, particularly, with the AI space becoming so prominent. And, we think back to financial institutions, banks, and credit unions, maybe
Yeah.
24 months ago, not necessarily being on board, not necessarily thinking that this was going to, affect them or that they could, buy time, where it's really flipped
Mhm.
now, hasn't it?
Yes.
Now every organization, no matter who you are, must have some strategy about how you're going to bring AI into your organization. And it's become, a catalyst. And where we used to be able to plan, over multiple years, I'm going to change that core system or that enterprise
Yes.
software. And, it was kind of this glacial, pace. Now, things are, moving so fast. And so the
Mhm.
human side of it is almost happening concurrently. Let's kind of
Yes.
talk about the challenges that, yeah, you're the CEO of a bank or a credit union, and you need to bring in some of this, technology. How do you
Mhm.
tell if your organization is ready? And by the way, if it's not, I'm assuming many won't be. But what do you do about it?
I think the first thing is number one, we have an assessment for that. So just to plug plug the assessment, but we help organizations understand. Yeah, we help organizations understand where they might be in their human transformation journey, and even their sort of baseline understanding around what is AI. Is everyone understanding, how it could be used? What are the use cases for it? And so I say to a lot of organizations we're talking to is that the organization that we're speaking to, it is like its own entity. Clearly, it's living and breathing at its own pace. It has its own circumstances that make it very unique. And so one person's journey is not necessarily going to be exactly like the other. So it's understanding what the specific strengths are, and the understanding specifically around AI inside the organization at that time. But curious, Alexis, what you think.
Yeah, in terms of signs of readiness, I think it's a question of ready for what, right? What stage of that journey are they ready for? And I think once that pain is felt, right, where a solution can come in and help that, they're ready for a piece of it, right? So it's finding that right piece part to offer for that time. And so
Yeah.
once that pain is felt, once they can get aligned to, hey, what can we do about this? We agree that this pain is felt. They're ready for the next step, right? So it's kind of an incremental journey to getting the right solution, implementing and doing that whole thing. But I really think once that pain is felt and understood and shared, they're ready, right? It's just going
Hmm.
to be a process of going down that path of transformation. But if there's not agreement that that pain is there, that's when there's really not readiness, right?
Hmm.
You don't have to have the answer. Yeah, you don't have to have the answer to the problem. You just have to recognize that that problem exists.
Hmm.
So that's what I look for.
It's kind of interesting. Today, when we look at the pace of things and we think back, to these large shifts, um, you know, uh, you know, mobile phone adoption with apps on the mobile phone, the internet era, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah.
No other shift, has, change been such a requirement. In other words, are we going to change? Yeah, AI is transforming work.
Yeah.
And so this is forcing people, ready or not. And so, and I guess, when you talk about the assessment, there, I guess there can't be an answer that, well, we're not going to do it. We have to do it because our industry's doing
Mhm.
it. So there's the business imperative, versus, as you said, and when you guys were kind of talking about the assessment that you do, elaborate a little bit on it. And how long does it take? And I guess
Mm.
maybe you can kind of comment about the different personas that you might find inside the organization. I always find that there are early adopters, early followers, late followers, and oh gosh, am I going to say it? Laggards inside the organization. I'd love to kind of hear from you about how does that assessment help you to understand the team dynamic from that adoption readiness perspective.
Yeah, it's a really kind of short and really kind of painless sort of mini quiz that our organizations can take. And it helps us to basically understand the human dimension, mainly looking for, does your organization, do you feel that everyone has a solid understanding as to how AI can be used? Do you have your policies and procedures prepared? Going back to the pain that Alexis was talking about, does everybody see the opportunity through the pain in the same way? So that just it has some very short questions in it that help us to sort of diagnose, whether or not the human readiness. And again, it's a maturity curve that you're talking about, Todd, all the way from, those that are tip of the spear all the way to the laggards. And, we feel like it doesn't really matter where you are. What matters is like, do you have agreement on where, we're trying to go? And that's sometimes where Alexis and I and the others on the team can come in and help to sometimes articulate from an outside point of view the opportunities that they have on the human side. From the more technical side, there are some things around readiness, which I know, we've all experienced in our careers, but is there a technical understanding around AI and how it can be used specific to the technologies that live inside the financial institution? So it kind of looks at both dimensions. We provide people with an overview as to where we think they fall. And of course, are welcome to talk about that. Also helping them to understand against their peers where they might be. And that's sometimes helpful as well.
Well, so once you've done the assessment, it sounds like it's not too heavy. Then what happens? I've taken my assessment. How does your organization, help an organization with the interpretation of how perhaps we responded?
Well, they first get an overview as to the answers that they provided and where they sit on that maturity curve on both the technical and human dimensions that we've talked about. And then, if they're open to it, we certainly have a conversation with them to talk through what we see. Talk with them about some of the use cases that they might think about exploring, and really find out, where they are more specifically on this curve, and then sort of lean in to apply our innovative ideas and creative thinking to their success criteria.
Yeah, that's helpful. How frequently is this being done concurrently with high priority innovation technology that maybe a financial institution has you've decided to invest in? It seems to me that people
Yeah.
good at buying software, they're not always so good at being ready, to maximize it. And so, yeah, maybe comment a little bit on that, just in terms of what you're seeing with financial institutions.
Oh gosh, Todd, that's a that is a
Or,
thread that it's like pulling the genie out of the bottle on that
yeah,
particular question for me. But it takes so much effort to I think internally, and having done this for years myself, to propose a new solution internally that can really make a difference for the organization. And so you're already putting yourself as a change leader sort of out on that limb. And what we want to do is sort of reduce any sort of risk that exists in that person going out on the limb by really helping to make sure that everyone is in the same place as that change moves forward. Because There's a lot of wonderful decisions that are made around technology, but without the human component of, and it's more than just implementation. Alexis and I talk about this a lot, and I may ask Alexis, maybe you to lean in on this one, but change is not a one-time thing. It really is an opportunity to have a continuous loop for innovation, and we're seeing that more and more. You had, I think, kind of alluded to this, Todd, in your question, which is maybe, what are the top things that we're hearing about from clients? This is by far the number one thing that I think I'm having conversations about, which is, what do we do with AI? We know we need to adopt it, but we're not exactly sure, how to go about it. And so this is an area that we talk a lot about in improvement, but it's the continuous improvement that
Yeah.
really doubles down on where people can go. And I personally feel it's not as hard as sometimes I think we emotionally feel about it. And so maybe Alexis, you want to talk about why we feel that way, and why continuous improvement. It's just really a muscle to create.
Mhm.
It is. I think, a lot of the times you want to blame the software, right, for its failings. And like you were saying, Tara, like someone's going out on a limb,
Yeah.
right, to pitch this, to propose this. And when others think like, well, we didn't get the bang for our buck on this, right? It's often just relegated that person, like, well, we just made the bad decision.
Yeah.
But it's a cultural thing, right? Do you have a culture of innovation? Have you bred resilience and curiosity? Is everyone embracing this as a opportunity and not just a silver bullet to solve everything, right?
Right.
It's rarely ever a thing that solves for the pain you're feeling. It's a combination of the right solution and the right human cultural environment to exist. Um, and so when you have that culture of continuous improvement, when you have a culture um, that is on board and is looking to elevate things, is innovative, is willing to explore, willing to, take risks, then it's just part and parcel of every day, right? It's not a change, right? That's the goal, is for it to not feel like a change. It just feels like this is another, step in our evolution to
Mhm.
level up. And it doesn't become as disruptive when you achieve that type of culture, that type of environment, right? It's just another opportunity to level up. And that's what we're after with helping these FIs is,
Yeah.
how do we level up your culture so that you can, you know, run faster in the right direction, um, and, maximize the outcomes that you want and your results.
I'd love to, just take it down a notch. So let's assume that, within any organization, you've got executive leadership, CEO, CFO, CIO, all of the, C level, leaders. You've got stakeholders, across different departments within the organization. And then, of course, you've got the people that show up every day and they do the work, taking care of customers, members, whatever the case might be. So, when we think about owning change, driving change, building the muscles that you spoke about, maybe kind of put an organizational lens on it. It'd be really interesting to hear your feedback. So, who's normally the owner of change? And is it
Mm.
something that's top down? Is it bottom? What do you see?
It's collective ownership, but the engine of that is the middle manager.
Mhm.
So if top leadership doesn't engage the middle manager, and I'm talking about the people who are leading the large,
Yeah.
teams, the staff themselves,
Yeah.
then they're really setting themselves up for failure. But everyone owns a piece of that. And I would say the
Mhm.
heaviest burden is on the leader that staff directly reports to. But they can't get that empowerment. They don't have the tools to succeed without support from the top down. And oftentimes I find the staff level, they're the easiest to convert because they are feeling a lot of the pain that the organization is looking to solve firsthand. So they're ready to embrace it, sometimes more so than their leaders and upper management because they're feeling that pain. And so they see that solution sometimes quicker,
Yeah.
than people who aren't as close to it. But you really have to have the right mindset and the connective muscle so that every layer empowers the next, but it's collective ownership.
What are the best practices for dealing with what inevitably will come up? Somebody who's planted their feet in cement in the past and won't embrace the future no matter what happens. So just curious, have you seen that happen? What do you do about it? Are we cutting people loose, sending them home? What are we doing?
You know what I would say, Todd, is that it's interesting the circumstance that you bring up, the example, right, of the person who kind of digs their heels in, and we kind of, all can have some sort of a imaginary vision of that. What I have found is that is actually not necessarily true in practice. When the rubber hits the road, I feel like that person can become your biggest internal champion.
Yeah.
Because if you can solve for what their needs are and the reasons that the barriers that they have for maybe not making the transition, you really can solve for really anyone. And I have not, as a leader and in the work that we do with clients, I haven't found anyone yet who doesn't want to be successful. Typically, they care very much about, they wouldn't be there in the place for 20 years if they didn't have a passion for the organization that they're working in, right? And so, again, it goes back to finding what are those things that get that person out of bed in the morning that encourage them to want to do this work day in and day out. So, I hate to say it, but it goes back to the human component of it, Todd.
Yeah.
And it's looking at, what gets that person out of bed in the morning. And typically they're the most loyal people that you have in your organization. And I don't believe it's human nature to want to fail.
Yeah.
And so the minute that you can tap into those two things is the minute that you can, I think, illustrate what does the change look like and what is the benefit on the other side.
Forever survives, is what you're saying, right?
I think so. I think there is a place for everyone, and I also do think though that evolution is a thing. And so change does mean that we need to look at the way in which we're operating and look to make some modifications to that. If we don't do that, I really do feel as an industry, we're not in a good place. So we have to be prepared to make shifts and to make changes. And we have to help people build the muscle to understand what that looks like. And hey, exercise sometimes isn't easy. Sometimes it comes with a little bit of a sore muscle or, a pulled hammy, whatever. We don't want pulled hammies. We want people who are well stretched and, took the journey of improvement of health slowly and methodically. And so that's kind of where we come from. But Alexis has many stories about this, Todd. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Tara shared, I think what varies for folks, there are survivors, right? And then there's thrivers.
Yeah.
And what the difference is enthusiasm. But what you get to at the end of the day, you can get to full adoption,
Yes.
right? Sally Old Days going to be enthusiastic about it? Maybe not. But is she going to adopt the right behaviors? She will, right? Because that's what a survivor does. And that's a performance thing too. People can adopt and change and get new behaviors, but it doesn't mean that they'll be enthusiastic. And, we have to just be okay with that. But really lean into those that are enthusiastic, right? Because they're going to be the next innovators. They're the folks that we could look to the next time to get feedback from. And, I think sometimes we relegate these people as the resistors,
Yeah.
which I don't like to call people that, right? Because they're the most honest. That's what I can say about people who are labeled resistors. They're the most honest, and you could learn the most from them
Right.
because you could count on their honesty. So everyone survives, but not everyone thrives.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Obviously, it's an interesting take. I've seen those circumstances where, of course, everybody doesn't survive. The IT team didn't embrace it, so tough choices are made, or ultimately, someone that was the subject, of change and just didn't get the memo. At the end of the day, it was seen that that person shouldn't continue on with the organization. But again, all the more reason, for us to be having this conversation. And it is about creating win-win outcomes. And so when we think about what triggers an organization like a bank or a credit union, to want to adopt an innovation solution, they're looking for efficiency or cost savings or revenue growth or whatever the business drivers happen to be. But
Hmm.
oftentimes when we think about adopting new technology, those aren't necessarily the benefits that individuals care so much about. There's sort of a "what's in it for meism" that needs to be there as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about how do you create a win-win outcome where the organization, the enterprise, gets the win. They get the outcomes that they sought to invest in, but it doesn't necessarily have to be at the expense of or key people, et cetera. Any thoughts on creating those win-win scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, I think the WIFM is something I know. Alexis and I talk about that a lot. It's what's in it for me as an individual, but also what's in it for the organization. Those two things I think do need to be in alignment. And sometimes, obviously, a human need is a little bit different from an organization need, but they should marry up at the end of the day. And everyone should clearly understand, why are we doing the work that we're doing? And how do I fit into that? I think people seeing themselves in the work is vitally important. So it goes back to, I think, alignment is a big part of that.
Yeah. Alexis, any comments from you?
Yeah, I think that, the win for the individual sometimes isn't always as clear, right? But if you share the relief that they can expect, or even an emotional win, right? Um, that's sometimes enough. And then also, just along that journey of going through a change, recognition in the right way is
Hmm.
enough to keep people on board. So you just need to have clarity on the why, have an emotional connection, as to that reason, right? Like, I think that is enough. Because there are changes that there isn't a personal win. And so you really have to pull on those emotional levers um, of connection, right? Have them feel like a part of the whole um, to really get to that place. And there's so many instances of, scenarios where there might not be a personal win. Like at the end of the day, it could be very bad news for an employee, but there's still a way to get them on board by pulling those emotional strings, by talking about what the advantages are, right? Because there's long-term advantages of enduring a change. It builds resilience, sometimes it's a resume builder, but there's
Mhm.
always a
Yeah.
personal perspective to share, and it's done through storytelling and not data. That's the other thing I want to
Mhm.
emphasize is, the language of, executives and leadership at a certain level is data,
Yeah.
but the storytelling is where the magic is for the individual.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. What do you think are some good examples of the levers?
Yeah, I think again, emphasizing the role that they can play and the value that that brings to the organization, right? Everyone likes that sense of accomplishment, understanding that they're bringing value
Yeah.
in terms of their role, future state and current state. So again, recognition in that right way,
Yeah.
acknowledgement. Again, very human things of building connection, having conversation. I think those are the levers to pull, right? And these are conversations and recognition that should happen, from the top all the way to their leader, and then
Yeah.
facilitating that as a group as well. I think those are really powerful things.
Kind of tack on to what Alexis said. There's you know, there are a history of changes that have likely happened at all of the financial institutions that we work with. There's not a single organization we're walking into now that isn't feeling change right this very minute, every single day. People, I would say, are overwhelmed with change to a certain degree. And so, when you look to do some more of the tactical work, I think thinking about the building blocks of honesty and transparency go a very long way in communicating with your team as to why you're doing things. So, Alexis mentioned storytelling. Vitally important to like over communicate why we're choosing to make the change. And from the employee perspective, we were sort of alluding to short term or long term benefits. Sometimes the benefit for the employee, and I just want to double down on the point Alexis said, you're not going to see it right away. But if it means that the organization is healthier because of the changes that that employee is leaning into, it actually does mean job security, organizational security, many other benefits down the line that can't really be ignored because the human being typically wants both the short term and the long term gains, and as they should. So it's about explaining that in a way that is, it has a lot of integrity to it.
Build on that a little bit. Let's kind of talk about the role of executive management, maybe the CEO or
Mhm.
other C-level executives. What's their role to play? So we talked just like doing a quick recap. We talked about the
Yeah.
importance of the stakeholders being mid-level, people who want business outcomes, and then we talked, of course, about those impacted by the change who may see their cheese moved or whatever term you want to use. Now let's go to the
Yeah.
top of the organization and talk about what's the job of C-level executives.
We're talking to a lot of C-level executives, Todd, that know that this next level or next type of change is inevitable, and so it's wanting to great people leading their organizations through that change and knowing and feeling very strongly that the culture needs to be a part of that. Most people I'm talking to today know that inherently and want it to be a great organization to work now and in the future. I think I would say that, many of them want to be remembered for making strong and important decisions that, led in the two levers we've been talking about, both the human and often technology sides and many other parts of the business. And this is a new territory. We're in uncharted territory in many ways. Some of the things that people are being asked to do are brand new. And so there isn't necessarily, charted territory. And so this is where I think we can help really guide and make sure that that communication is happening and that the C-suite is supported in their journey. It's hard to be a leader.
Yeah, it
If
is.
you're a really great leader, it's hard to be, I think, a great leader. And so having support at every level is really important and taking care of yourself. We encourage that even just leaders need to take care of themselves too. And so, as a C-suite member, how are you taking care of the middle management that Alexis was talking about? Those people who really are in a position to inspire. Inspiration takes a whole other, I think, side of emotional energy.
Yeah.
To inspire someone is a big deal, and it takes, I think, thoughtfulness and heart, and those things combined to really take it to the next level. So we have to be sure that we have a culture, I think, where we're caring for each other. And what specifically does that look like? Can we point to it? Can we say that we've experienced it? How are we holding ourselves accountable to that?
Yeah.
Those are things we often talk about.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And again, ultimately, um, success or failure, will be measured at the executive level by boards and shareholders and
Mm.
sort of thing. So obviously, they have a
Yeah.
big stake in the game. When we think about the ecosystem now, so I, you know, I know you do great work working with credit unions and banks and the like. And of course, a lot of these wonderful community-centric organizations have got technology that's been around for a bit,
Yeah.
maybe a decade or two or what have you. I'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts about, like no one wants to replace their enterprise software that's torturous hell. So talk about,
Right.
change, around the investments that have already been made a little bit and just the industry's readiness for this next generation future of work sort of technology, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, I'll share my opinion. I'm really curious too, Todd, of your opinion on this as well, because I feel like about 10 years ago, I went through a phase where, and maybe this is just me, but I felt like it was kind of a throw the baby out with the bathwater type of
Right.
approach. Like we have to replace everything. There's just this giant pressure. And I think with some of the more modern technologies now, it makes it so that that doesn't necessarily, have to be done. We don't have to take the baby out with the bathwater. There are technologies that can help us to bridge solutions, and the power in that. For me, for financial institutions, is it gives us a little bit of time to plan as to how these, not a lot of time, by the way, but it gives us an opportunity to really be strategic on what systems get changed out when and why. Are we really clear at what the benefit's going to be? Because when we absorb new technologies, we also take on the I would say, lack of energy that we can put towards other things. So there
That,
is both a cost benefit to changing out new systems. Now, do not hear me say that I don't think we need to be, purchasing new systems or moving towards new tech. I think we should be. In many cases, that is an absolute. But how we go about it is critically important. And I think there's a little bit more wiggle in how we go about it than we had in the past.
yeah. It's interesting. I think we've spoken in the past about, I grew up in enterprise software, and just
Yeah.
as you said, you nailed it. It was like it was the cure all for everything.
Cure
Uh,
all. Yeah.
yeah, you're using that old ERP. We got to get rid of it. The new ERP will
Yeah.
make life magic, right? And of course,
Right.
by the way, I was confessions, of a technology guy. Guy, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we're world hunger. Don't worry about that. We'll get that in the new
Yeah.
platform. That's a feature. But it is kind of funny. We never managed to fully deliver the yield that was promised with ERP, core systems, and other things like that. The result
Yeah.
was some gap, and I found that that's what kind of motivated me to get involved around my current role, is because all right,
Yeah.
we know we didn't deliver it last time. But is there a way that we can get you that last mile of capability that you were lacking with your technology? I guess why that's important is that we talk to banks, credit unions that do massive core conversions, or
Mhm.
replace major systems
Mhm.
with departmental functions, and they'll go through the torturous hell, and then a couple of things inevitably happen. They finish those projects, and they say, where's that ROI again? And there's not
Yes.
an ROI because we had previously automated the things maybe on the previous platform, and
Mhm.
still again those investments don't deliver that last mile of efficiency or capability. So it kind of gets me
Right.
excited about what I would call this plethora of future of work innovations that are
Yeah.
emerging. I guess, the banks and credit unions in our lives are not immune to these technologies, whether it's Copilot, whether it's Chat GPT, or all of the other things, all of the investment capital that's creating
Mhm.
startup, ecosystem around, AI. It's really exciting to see the pace of
Mhm.
change. And, I
Yeah.
get all the more reason, by the way, for an organization like Papilio to be, a key part of that journey. We used to think in terms of 3 to 5 year plans. Now it's like, okay, what are we going to get done over the next 3 months? And so the whole shift is occurring. Future of work is
Yeah.
not optional, right? And so,
It's not, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not optional. And I think we're all going to look back on this in probably even 3 years, maybe less, and it'll be like a no-brainer as to why that had to happen. It really does make prioritization really important. Over the next 6 to 12 months, why are we doing the things as an organization that we're doing? What do we expect to see on the other side of it? What I do feel very deeply is that, and it goes back to something I said just a minute ago, which is there's not a single organization I've walked in so far that doesn't say the same exact thing, which is that our team members have more than enough work on their plates and they're worried about change fatigue, burning people out. So, what does that mean? That means that we need to do things differently than we've done before. And so, what does that look like? And that's where our passion lies with Papilio and working with folks like yourself, is helping people navigate that and make sure that we don't end up in the circumstances that we've all kind of talked about on the phone today, which is, getting at the end of that journey and not seeing the payout. We should see the payout, and doing things differently is good. It means that you have more capacity, and we need to get to a place where there's more capacity through the work that we're doing.
So take that one step further.
Yeah.
Usually I get invited to do this, but I'm going to invite you to do this. By the way, I think we lost
Yeah,
Alexis. So Alexis, you did a great
we
job.
did.
Looks like you had a little internet issue. So Tarrah, um, um,
Yeah.
if somebody is looking, to go on this human-centered change adoption, change management process, and they need outside,
Mhm.
uh, you know, how do they engage with Papilio on something like this? And so this was your opportunity to do your like elevator pitch,
Yeah.
or so give
Yeah,
'em
I mean, it's honestly
30 seconds. Go. No.
yeah, go. Uh, I mean, this is not you can call us, you can click our to see our website, papiliocollective.com. It's Papilio, collective.com. You can also contact me, 916 281 7233. We're always available to talk and really not even just talk. What I'm going to say is we're really great at listening because it starts with listening. It starts with really understanding and hearing and seeing firsthand what is unfolding at that particular organization. And I will say, Todd, as much as and you know this because we live it and breathe it every day, we really have a passion for human beings. We have a passion for the diversity that lives in each one of us. But we're also very passionate about the tech. And it's the two and two going hand in hand is what's required for the future. And so you're going to get a whole group of people who have been living through a technology lens for their entire lives. And as Alexis began this story and said, hey, I wasn't always a change manager, right? I would say the same thing is true. I wasn't necessarily always designated a change manager, but became that way because it became a clear criteria to really knocking projects out of the park. And that's what we want for all of our clients.
That's so true. I believe that as well. You don't just solve the change adoption, the human side of it, then do
Mhm.
technology, nor do you just do technology and then figure out the adoption. It's like there's a concurrency now that needs to be there. So I got one other question for you, just to make sure,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna ask you some lightning round. And we'll have some
Oh
fun.
my gosh.
with you. So,
Okay.
so the one other question is why Papilio?
Okay.
Why'd you call it that? What's that mean?
Yeah, so Papilio is really it's a Latin term all around transformation. Well, butterflies specifically, and you'll see in our logo there's a butterfly. That's where that comes in, and really, there's no other place in nature that I think resembles the art of transformation quite like a butterfly does. And so that's how that all came to be.
I like that.
And we do believe in transformation, and it's not just a buzzword. It's a living, breathing exercise that you do every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great explanation. Okay, let's do our lightning round. I'm going to ask you
Okay.
quick questions, quick answers. Okay, to
Yeah.
send
Okay.
or would
Oh, geez.
we'll see how your answers are. Okay, so what's
Okay.
one tech buzzword you'd happily retire forever?
Oh gosh. For my friends who are gonna listen to this, I'm gonna pick omni-channel.
Oh, okay, sure, yeah,
Omni-channel, I would say, is one buzzword that I would like to remove, from our vernacular. With that said, I love the notion of it.
yeah,
I just think it became overused.
yeah, and I'm not sure we ever delivered it right. That's the other side of it. Right.
Right, and as you know me, Todd, I think you've known me well enough now to know that, like, the thing I'm married to is outcomes and delivery and success for everyone we're working with, so that would
Yeah,
be the one that I would probably not pick.
I like it. I like it. Okay,
Followed shortly by, big data. That's another one that I'm not a huge fan of. Love it in concept, though. All of these are wonderful concepts. I just think that either I said it too frequently or I heard it too frequently. I don't know which.
yeah, I think that. Of course, AI itself has become the buzzword, and what a lot of people just don't understand is AI is not a
Yeah.
thing you buy. AI is
Right.
used to deliver the thing that you buy, the software
Yes.
solutions, the whatever it happens to be. So it'll be interesting to see. It's amazing how over the last 2 to 3 years, everything has become AI enabled, and there's
Yes.
that's true. There's some significant pretenders out there in the market as well, but it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see whether the use of AI continues to be prominent, or if it just becomes matter of fact. Who name a software company that won't be an AI company, and but they're
Right.
a zombie software company, probably. But okay,
Yeah, 100%. That one's definitely on my top list, Todd, the AI buzzword for sure. I would tell you, and I'm sure you've experienced the same thing, that if we asked like a large population of people, even at a conference, what's your least favorite term? Almost all of them say AI because it's just like the buzz term. Everyone has it. And I think you're exactly right. And we're seeing that transform right now, right? Which is the buyer is becoming more educated
right,
around specifically what these technologies can do. And so you really, depending on what you're buying, you should inherently expect it to be included.
that's right. Yeah, give me some of that AI stuff. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Don't does know I need it. But
Right.
okay, so
Right.
here's the
Right.
next question. Fill in the blank. The
Okay.
future of work
All right.
will be what?
Successful.
Okay. Okay, I like that.
The future of
Such an optimistic person. All right. What's the
I'm an
most
optimistic person.
inevitable is another great word, isn't it? But that's
Yes.
this is about you. That was my word. Um,
Todd, you're trying to outdo me. Yes, I'll take your
I
word.
know.
Inevitable for
No,
10.
it's not a competition. I promise. No, I'm joking. Okay. All right. So this one's just you. What's the most human
Yeah.
thing you do at work that no AI could ever replace?
Hmm. Connection, true connection, making time for people, listening to people, um, feeling the emotion and the real life things that they have going on, and taking in context of where what that means to them as a person and beyond. And I think I don't see that being replaceable. Yes, I do think that there's a lot of cool things going on in regards to mental health and leveraging AI in the healthcare space, which I think is wonderful. I also don't necessarily think it's a complete one for one replacement of human contact.
No, no, never. Right. Okay. Last
Yeah.
one. If you had
Okay.
1 extra hour per day, what would you do with it?
Mm. I'd say work out more, but I don't know. I don't. I do believe in living in integrity. So,
Well,
although
yeah,
that's
it's a
probably what I
public
should.
forum. That's a perfect answer. Public. Oh yeah, I'd work out more, and
Yeah.
good answer. But
I really get a lot of joy, Todd, on podcasts and like listening to things and learning. I think it's probably my answer would probably be I do that a lot already, but it's just, when you read a good book and you're kind of craving to get to the next chapter, that's sort of how I feel. And so I probably would
I,
listen to
that,
more content.
will become one of your favorite podcasts. You've been an amazing guest, and enjoyed having Alexis as well. Really
Yeah.
appreciate the work you do for banks and credit unions about helping them manage through change. And I've really enjoyed, getting to know you better today, and in other venues where we've had the opportunity to work together. And so I just thank you for being on my podcast and telling me a little bit about the very important work that you, Alexis, and your team do. It's a pleasure to be engaged with you.
Well, thanks so much, Todd, for having us and just for the work that we get to do in partnership. It's wonderful. And I just appreciate you more than words can say. So thank you so much for everything. And and I will be your one of your biggest fans. I'm sure not your only fan because this is going to be a great series, but definitely a fan of the podcast already.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Pleasure having you today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Bye now.
Bye bye.